Most leaders fail in the first 18 months of leadership. Let me explain. Hey, I'm Josh, and I am an executive leadership coach who's coached over 100 executives all across different industries, helping them develop and design their own high-performing teams. And the biggest issue I'm seeing right now across leadership is promoting people into leadership who've never been trained or prepared to lead people. Most people get promoted because they were good at the job, not because they know how to lead people. And that single mistake is why so many leaders struggle in their first year. It's not because they're incompetent. They're just untrained, unprepared. And I've seen this happen over and over again. That high performer that's absolutely crushing it in their role, they're showing up, they're reliable, they're productive, they're trusted. So the organization does what seems logical. They promote them into leadership. Now they're responsible for people, and suddenly everything changes. That skill that got them there, that helped them be successful before, are not the same skills that are required to lead this team. And that's where most leaders fail. It's the leadership gap that people don't recognize. When you move from an individual contributor to a leader, the entire game changes. Before the promotion, their success looked like this. They would work hard, produce results, solve the problems themselves. But leadership looks completely different. Success now means you have to develop other people, hold them accountable, and navigate their conflict. You have to communicate clearly and create an alignment. Most leaders have never even heard of those skills, let alone been taught how to do any of that. So what happens? They fall back into what they know, what got them here. They try to solve everything themselves. They avoid the tough conversations, and they overwork because they don't trust their team. And eventually, they feel overwhelmed. It's not because they're incapable. It's because no one taught them the skills on how to lead. And after working with hundreds of leaders, these are the mistakes that happened more consistently after that promotion. First, they try to prove themselves. New leaders feel that pressure to show that they deserve the role, that they can show that they were worthy of being in this position, having this title. So they outwork everyone else. They take on way too much, and they solve all the problems themselves. But leadership isn't about proving yourself. It's about developing others. And the moment you become a leader, your success is no longer measured by what you accomplish. It's measured by what your team produces. Next, they avoid the tough conversations. Conflict suddenly feels different. You're not just a coworker anymore. You're responsible for people's performance. And when someone isn't meeting those expectations, new leaders are often hesitant to give that feedback. They delay it, they soften the message, or they avoid the conversation entirely. But avoiding those tough conversations doesn't protect the relationship. It actually damages them. People lose clarity, and then your team loses trust. Finally, they keep thinking like a doer. And this one's huge, because the skills that made someone successful before the promotion are actually holding them back afterwards. High performers are used to being the ones with all the answers, the ones that people go to. But leaders don't succeed having all the answers. They succeed asking the right questions. And leadership is about creating that environment where people can perform at the highest level, not do everything yourself. You have to change the way you think. The shift that every leader needs to make is stop thinking like the best player on the team. Start thinking like the coach. Players often focus on their own performance, but the coach thinks about the performance of the entire team. That means your job as a leader is to become these three things: creating clarity, creating accountability, and creating psychological safety so people can perform at the highest level. And when those three things exist, your team performs completely different. So how do you do that? You've recently been promoted. Here's some things that you can do immediately to redefine your leadership style. First, redefine what success means. Your success is no longer about how much you personally complete. Your success is measured by how well your team performs. So start asking yourself different questions. Did I make my team better today? Did I coach someone effectively today? Did I provide clear expectations for my team? That's what leadership looks like. Next, start having those difficult conversations that you've been avoiding. Most performance problems exist because expectations were never cleared or feedback was delayed. The best leaders address those issues early and directly, not aggressively, but clearly. Great teams don't avoid feedback, they normalize it. And finally, start building systems, not just putting in effort. Leaders burn out when they try to carry everything themselves, but high performing teams operate through systems. They have shared goals, clear communication, accountability, and psychological safety. When those systems exist, performance becomes sustainable. So recognize that leadership isn't something that magically people understand the day they get promoted. It's a skill. And like any skill, it has to be learned and then practiced. The leaders who succeed aren't the ones that are best at their job. They're the ones who are willing to learn how to lead people and make those around them better.